Hey, The Rock bought a football team, or
He
let
bought
alone a
whole
league.
football
Yeah,
organization.
bought a league.
The whole league is
Pretty
his.
legit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. If you smell what the Rock is cooking. Yeah.
Now, if anybody watches the show Ballers, on the very last episode, that's exactly what he did. He bought himself a team.
That's awesome. In this case, he bought a whole league. He's
And that's where they ended the series. So it's kind of cool. It's like he went from a team and he's like, all right, now I'm going to go buy a league, but it's not going to be on TV. I'm going to do it for real.
yeah, it's pretty cool. And I know he wants to do what we've talked about in the past, how this could work as like a developmental league for the National Football League.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the best case scenario for the XFL.
Well, look, and they should, right? Because, I mean, first of all, the XFL, if it wasn't for COVID, the XFL was looking pretty legit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
They were nothing like the years past when they did it with Trump and McMahon, where it was more of like a Hollywood production. They literally played good football, had some good teams, had some decent players, and were actually entertaining.
Yeah, I was excited. Former Temple Owl, PJ Walker, was looking like he was going to be the XFL MVP. Yeah, I mean, I really think there could be good things for the XFL. I hope that they, and now with The Rock buying them, they're going to get another chance at this. We're going to get a year 2. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I was very disappointed to watch their season come to an end. I thought they had a good thing going, and it just didn't feel right to see such hard work get dismantled because of a freaking pandemic virus. It's one thing nobody watches it. It's another thing, but the point is that he would just run out of money. It wasn't that there wasn't entertainment and money being made. There just wasn't enough to keep going. And most of the time, that's a bad business model, except given we have a pandemic, which is not usually the common reason for a company to fail.
Right. I mean, nobody could, like if it had folded, if nobody had bought it, like nobody could fault Vince McMahon this time for it failing.
Yeah.
Whereas I think he was directly responsible for its failure the first time around.
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah.
We could spend a whole segment talking about that.
It was softcore porn the first time around.
Yeah.
So, and hey, if you're a dirty scumbag like me, it was awesome. But for the general folks, when you got Timmy and Susie sitting in front of the TV doing their coloring books, seeing Hooters restaurant as a cheerleading squad on the side of a football team, it didn't play into the family room. So.
Well, and it kind of worked with what was going on in WWE at the time. Like they were basically a softcore porn industry at that point, which again knocked it out of the park for the 18 to say 25 male demographic. But when you wanted to go to a larger demographic, which is what they were trying to hit with the XFL, like that just didn't work.
Right. So I'm looking at a video of the new Washington football team helmets. Have you seen it?
No, I have not seen anything about it.
Basically, it's a maroon helmet with a yellow number on it. What in the just wait till next year.
I know.
This has been a disaster, man.
So stupid.
Literally, it just went live like 20 minutes ago. Someone posted it on Twitter. A guy it looked like a trainer was taking the decal part off, and he shows you what it looks like, and I'm like, wow.
And the ridiculous thing is that they're actually advertising like this is a good thing that they're doing this. Like they really believe that calling it the Washington football team is somehow better than what they had before. To me, it's more of an embarrassment that you just didn't even think you had to do anything.
It was like going into Iraq. It's easy to knock something over, but if you don't have a plan afterwards, it looks like a disaster to the rest of everybody else. And that's kind of what we did. We went and toppled over this name that people didn't like with no plan and action in any immediate future to fix the problem. It's just stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems like the problems for the NFL are just going to keep piling up. Doug Peterson tested positive for COVID.
I saw that. And I saw that Matthew Stafford had a false positive. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, false positive.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were right. That's what I'd read.
Yeah,
he had a false positive.
it seems like the only sport to me that has gotten this right is the UFC. They're the only sport that seems to have a real good handle on a procedure to make sure before you go on a match or into training or whatnot, you have to be tested twice in the same day, 8 hours apart, or it's either 8 or 16 hours apart. And that's just to get to like the ring. Even before an event, you have to be so basically you have to be tested twice a day, every day you're there. That's the only way to be in the sport, training and fighting on fight day. That's legit.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the only way to ensure that your negatives are negative and that your positives are positive.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is the only way. You know, I'm just gonna keep saying it. This just feels like we're playing Russian roulette until we get a vaccine.
Yeah. I mean, look, if we want to talk about something like more legit to football, like hardcore, Travis Kelce and his girlfriend have broken up today, they announced.
That's a shame. I feel terrible for them.
It's a big deal, man. It's a breakup. That's Travis Kelce is a single man on the market again, and his beautiful girlfriend, have no idea what her name is now off to the races to find someone better than Travis Kelce. Good luck, because Travis Kelce can dance and he can throw flags at refs. Not a lot of players can do that. Not a lot of players have the ability to throw a flag at a ref, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's
beat that chick.
That's gonna be tough. I mean, imagine being the guy that's next. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, tell me about some of your past boyfriends. Oh well, you see this. The last guy I dated was this football player. Oh, really? That's cool. Like, what was he on the practice squad or something? No, he was on the Chiefs. Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce retires from the NFL early to be a referee. Wouldn't that be some shit?
What would be great is, like, she's being hit on by some guy at the bar. The guy's like totally into her. She's totally into him. Yada yada. And starts asking. It's like, so she's like, well, I'm just coming out of a breakup. I was just dating Travis Kelce. He's like, if you weren't interested, why didn't you just say so? I can't compete with that.
Exactly.
Away.
Exactly. Let's see what another news I saw today. The quick bits is I saw basically an opinion on Cam Newton, next teammate, undisclosed. I hate when they don't give their names. I'm like, come on, man, like put yourself out there. But the guy basically said, I'm going to read his quote. This is just my opinion, but I don't feel like Cam can take the pressure of coaches talking down about his play. If he had a bad game in Carolina, the coaching staff wouldn't say much to him because they may have felt he was a little bit frail about it, or maybe would pout a little bit. They never really corrected to the point which Bill used to correct Tom. I'm curious to see how he handles that. Basically, he's saying he's a freaking baby. He can't handle criticism about being a quarterback. He doesn't like improving because he already thinks he's good enough. That's what that tells me.
Right. And this is some of the criticism that he's gotten throughout his career.
Yeah.
That he didn't handle criticism well. Just look at how he responded at the end of Super Bowl 50.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a terrible game.
And look, that's funny coming from you, a female.
Oh, shoot.
That was good. Oh my god!
You got me.
Oh my god!
Got me a little on that one.
Put a defibrillator on me. I'm going down. All right.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting take. I think it's one that a lot of, like, we've heard that a lot.
Yeah,
is that Cam doesn't take criticism well. Again, we've seen the way he's responded to it in the past. I think that's just an easy.
He's just frail, man.
Yeah,
like I just think he's a frail person. I think it all goes back to his whole being accused of theft and stuff and call. Like he just, I'm gonna train. Like I'm gonna bail out of here if you don't like that. Like he's just been frail since the beginning. He seems like and I don't know if you've seen his father on stage with him, like talking. A lot of it seems to come with his dad. His dad thinks his shit doesn't stink. Like not Cam's. His dad thinks his doesn't. He has that whole bravado too, and I think that carried over to Cam in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and that's a shame. Like I think that's one of the harder personality traits to get past when you're an NFL quarterback. You have to be able to take criticism. If you can't take criticism, I mean, like I don't see much room for growth. And If he's not going to grow, he's not going to last very long in New England. And they got a 1-year deal. It's a show me deal. It's basically, does Cam want to make it in this league? And if he does, he's going to have to be able to take the criticism of Bill Belichick. And if he doesn't, then he'll be out of the league.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think it'd be a shame. He's a good talent. He's definitely done a lot better in his career than I originally thought. I thought he had bust written all over him.
I never thought he had bust written all over him. I always saw him as a solid quarterback, but I never saw him as a leader out of the gate. He was like what's his name? Who am I thinking of down at Florida State, down in Tampa?
James Winston.
He has a lot of Winston's characteristics to me. Like, got the talent, can have a good stride of games, fast, mobile, can throw solid. But it's like when the big moment is on him, he doesn't shy away from it. He acts like he knows how to handle it, but it's very clear he doesn't.
Right. He tries to act the part, but it's see-through. You can see right through it that both Cam and Jameis Winston, they don't handle those big moments very well. Look at the difference between the way Cam Newton handles those moments and the way like a Russell Wilson handles those moments. And that's why, with the exception of was a few years ago when the Panthers made it to Super Bowl 50, Russell Wilson and the Seahawks pretty much handled the Panthers anytime they had to play each other. And now Carolina did beat them in a playoff game to make it to the Super Bowl. But and even in that game, Seattle got down early, but came roaring back. And, man, I'd argue if that game was about 10 to 15 minutes longer, Seattle wins that game.
Oh, no doubt. Like, no doubt. That was just a matter of they ran out of time to finish their comeback.
Right.
Yeah, that's all that was, for sure.
And it's funny, like, I really think, like, looking at the two of them, like, I think those are two, like, look at Jameis Winston, Cam Newton, and what he's been, what he's gotten versus what, like, he was given. He was given the keys to the franchise from the moment he was drafted by Carolina.
Oh, no doubt.
Up until last season. And then look at, I just made the comparison to Russell Wilson, who was a third-round draft pick, and had to earn his spot and won the spot in training camp. And look, Seattle had gone and acquired Matt Flynn, and they had acquired him to be the starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And
this league is like a league of we have a lot of. I wonder if they did a study on how many number one drafts were a bust versus guys who worked their way in, and what has prevailed to be like the greater thing. Which ones stood behind the guy until it was their time versus the ones who came out number one, they got put in right away. I'd be curious to see, statistically. The only couple of ones I'm like, oh, yeah, for sure, like Peyton Manning, his IQ just made him like an instant success. Didn't matter where you put him.
His IQ and his work ethic. I just think,
Well, and to me, it's not his work ethic as physically. He was just a mental worker constantly.
Yeah.
It was constantly working the game, But when you look at all these success stories and whatnot, Mahomes waited his turn. Rodgers waited his turn. Tom Brady waited his turn. Russell Wilson waited his turn. Although they were still being looked at as potentials, Tony Romo, we have Dak. We have all these guys that just waited their turn. Very few ones that came out and were put right in the spot ended up being a Super Bowl success.
Right. I mean, look at the greatest quarterback of all time, arguably Tom Brady, pick number 199, as everybody who's ever watched anything related to the NFL draft knows.
Yeah, he even came from a school that sucked.
Yeah, I mean, they had to overcome that going from an awful school like Michigan.
Yeah. He was constantly having to take showers to get Woodson off him because there was just too much Woodson in Michigan left over from '97.
Sure, and having to do that, quarterback tandem thing with Drew Henson, the former Yankee Drew Henson.
Yeah, and then you had Greasy's dad, doing commentary on games and whatnot, basically saying Tom Brady sucks all the time, so his son could be.
And Bo Schembechler trying to get involved, saying, "Well, what you need to do is hand the football off." Huh?
Exactly. And then you had my man who always said barn burner. And
Jackson.
Yeah, my favorite commentator.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring him up and you bring up, the commentary in Michigan. I wanted to talk tonight. We're training camps in motion, and normally this would have been tomorrow would have been the Hall of Fame game
Right.
if we hadn't had COVID. And so I wanted to think about I got the opportunity a number of years ago to go with my father to the NFL Hall of Fame, and one of the best trips I had. We went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, and then rode over and had spent the day at the NFL Hall of Fame. And we part of a bus trip. Me, my dad, and my uncle. Actually, my stepmother got it for him for their 25th wedding anniversary, which is pretty. Yeah. Or maybe it was it was their 10th. It had to have been their 10th. Yeah, because I was still a kid. And they got married after. So anyway, I got the timeline screwed up, but it was their 10th wedding anniversary. And I haven't even been drinking tonight. How about that?
Right.
But, a real fun trip. I was wondering what some of those trips, any kind of I guess I wanted to call it the bucket list items. We'll talk some about that tonight. What kind of big sports bucket list items do you have on your list?
I got a couple of them. One, I've always wanted to see. I've always wanted to go to a Yankee playoff game at Yankee Stadium. Mm-hmm. Now, most of this dream came from 97, 98 when Jeter and the old stadium were still alive and whatnot. But I'd still like to go to one. Other one would be I'd like to go to. I forget the team. I feel like I should know it because we're talking sports. But I've always wanted to go to a European soccer game. I forgot the team. They have the biggest turnout and just feel the momentum. I've always wanted to feel the momentum of a soccer game. It seems so huge the way the feeling is in that. That's a bucket list. I've always wanted to see. One of the things I've always wanted to go to is an Eagles game where they lose, which I may get my wish this year. So with their coach out and everything with COVID, so but I want to be present. I want to feel the disappointment and the boos coming from the Eagles fans. That's a bucket list item. No, I'm just kidding. But I remember I used to have a bucket list. I used to want to see the gel under the Eagle Stadium. Of course, I'm not ever going to see that now. But I used to want to see that. Yeah, I thought that was cool as hell. I'm like, dude, I'm in Texas. You know how many people drink after a game, drive and drink, hit deers with their car? I'm like, this is the place we need a gel cell in a freaking stadium. But New York, Philly, and Texas seem like a place to have a gel in a stadium to me. Hell, and now even the Redskin Stadium.
Oh, you mean the Washington football team?
Yeah, the WTFs, because I want to make sure that if any Indians get crazy in there over racism, that we put them in the jail cell right away. Yeah, because, that's what happens because people are so angry about the name.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get that either. It's funny. I've been thinking a lot about some of my bucket list items as far as the game, events. And I didn't want to just limit it to. In fact, I didn't want to limit it at all. Just whatever the idea would be, whether it be up until a couple of years ago, one of the bucket list items would have been see the Eagles win a Super Bowl.
Okay.
So that would have I got to check that one off. That was a big one. But also different stadiums. I'd love to go see. You mentioned you wanted to go see the jail and underneath Veterans Stadium.
Yeah.
But I got to mark an item off by going to the last Yankee Red Sox game at the old Yankee Stadium.
See, man, you got to do that?
Yes. Yeah, I got to do that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's good history right there.
Yeah. Me and my dad went up there. We took the train in. Walked it was 2 or 3 blocks from the train station to Yankee Stadium. It was awesome. And we knew it was slated to be the last Yankee Red Sox game there. And so it was really cool.
Yeah.
One that I haven't gotten to do yet. There's 2 big ones that I feel like I have to do, being a guy who likes to travel to see sporting events. And I haven't been to Fenway Park yet. I have to get to Fenway, see the Green Monster. And number 2, I have to go to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, Madison would be something,
Yeah.
It's got so much relevant history. It's still relevant now. Problem is, a lot of my bucket list items for sports have either the stadium's gone or whatnot. Now I have a bucket list like players I'd like to meet.
Oh, sure. Yeah, hey, we can talk about.
I'll name like 3 of them I'd want to meet. I'd want to meet Peyton Manning just because I think Peyton Manning has a good sense of humor and intelligence mixed together. I think he'd make good for good conversation. I'd like to meet Barack Obama. Psych. I'd like to meet. I would like to meet Tom Brady because I would like to. I don't know. I'd like to pick his brain to see if privately he would tell me more about him and Bill Belichick and the fallout. Like I'd be like.
What's the thing? Like you want to be able to sit there and have like the truth serum given to him, so he has to tell you the truth about whatever you ask him.
Yeah. Who do we got? Steve Barr. 7 viewers don't quit day jobs. Nice, Steve Barr.
Keeping it positive.
Yeah. Well, hey, you were watching. So what kind of job you got, brother? But anyways, that cool. Let's see who else I like. Actually, I would like to meet. Obviously, Jerry Jones, I think, would be a cool conversation. Just because I think Jerry Jones is a really emotional guy. So I'd like to hear more of his emotional side of football than his business and everything that I know. I'd like to pick his brain about like his feelings about like, Troy Aikman, when Emmitt Smith held out. Like I'd like to know how he felt during those times, kind of thing. So that's my quick bucket list.
Yeah, guys, and it's funny. I got a chance to meet one of the guys off your bucket list. Jerry
Jones. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, which is really a cool experience, especially being there in all my Eagles garb, and then when he squashed me with his wallet, that was fun.
They say Jerry had to go into psychological treatment after that, after meeting you. They were tormented and okay.
Well, I did tell him I was obligated as an Eagles fan to tell him that he sucked. And then he just said, "That's nice, kid. Now I'll buy you lunch."
Yeah, and Jerry Jones, I think Jerry Jones, he's that type of guy that you can, I think, just have a beer with, and that dude will just chat you up. He's not in some like echelon of I make too much money, you're unimportant. I think he can get annoyed with people who are too over the top with like, I love the Cowboys. Tell me everything, Jerry. Oh my God, I've watched you my whole life. I don't think he'd really get entertained by people like that. He seems like the moral guy that if you're just calm and collected and he's calm, I think Jerry Jones would share a conversation with anybody.
Well, and it's funny, like he was sitting really close to me. And he's sitting there at a table full of people, like I'm sure a lot of corporate execs, like guys, like important people within like the franchise and whatnot. And he's just there, and instead of going and interacting with all of them, he spent a good amount of time, like, again, turning and having a conversation with me, like some guy sitting at the bar to watch his football game, and it was really cool to just see how at the heart of it, he's a football fan and he just enjoys the game. And he happens to be a billionaire who owns another NFL team, but he just wanted to sit there and watch football. Because I want in the conversation, I say to him, just like, why are you here? Like, why aren't you back at the hotel? Like, why aren't you at the stadium? He's just like, I heard this is a cool place, and I wanted to come watch some football. I'm just like, at the end, because when you break it down to the core, he's just like us. He's a football fan.
Yeah, and I think that's cool. I think there's some humans, in sports like that. I think sometimes we get caught up in the gold and the Ferraris and all the shit they're doing,
right?
Especially with COVID going on, But it says discuss the Marlins debacle.
Sure, I can certainly discuss that. In case you didn't know, I guess about a week and a half ago, the Marlins, right at the opening of the season, played their first 3 games in Philadelphia. And they traveled to Philadelphia after having an exhibition series with the Atlanta Braves and had apparently gone out partying in Atlanta before their flight and contracted COVID. A number of their players did. And they knew they had tested positive going into their Sunday afternoon series finale. It was like 10 of them that tested positive, and yet they still went out and played the game. And those players knew they had a team meeting in which they talked about whether or not they wanted to go play. And my response was, did the Phillies get this opportunity? Did any of that message get passed on the Phillies? And it hadn't. And it hadn't gotten passed along to Major League Baseball. And the only reason we really found out as quickly as we did is because their starting pitcher, the guy who was slated to be their starting pitcher that day, was scratched. And, well, the reason he was scratched is because he was one of those players that tested positive. And it shut down the Marlins. They just got started back up yesterday. The Phillies just got started back up on Tuesday or on Monday. I mean, it was a complete debacle, and now the Cardinals are going through it too. They've had a number of players test positive. I think they're finding a problem. Hockey and basketball seem to have this under wraps because they have their bubble. They're able to get everybody into the bubble and keep the players and essential personnel in, everybody else out. And the problem Major League Baseball is having is they're expecting these guys to sort of self-quarantine when they're not at the ballpark, or when they're traveling, they're able to more quarantine. But when they're at home, I think they're going to run into that problem of they want to continue their home life and then just come to the ballpark as usual.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know how players. So have the Eagles have decided no fans in the stadium, right?
There hasn't been a decision announced.
Okay, I keep getting mixed messages. I keep hearing like they have and they haven't. But so from what I know here so far, it's if you wear a mask, you can attend the games. That's so far. Mm-hmm. I think for attending games with COVID, like just make everybody wear gloves and masks. No hands can touch anything. You can't get anything when you touch it if you have gloves on. And you can't spread it with your mouth or your nose if you have that. I don't know why this isn't mandated that we have gloves on. Like, I mean, period. Like when you go to the store, when you're anywhere, I mean, you can't get something on your hands. If you take your gloves off and wash your hands, you're not going to get something while you're at the store, and you're not going to give it to someone by a hand. And the same thing with the players, touching bats, touching footballs, touching helmets, touching jerseys. Same thing. Everybody just needs to wear gloves, stay hygiene, and keep your mask on. And I think everybody should be able to go to the stadium. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you know what? Look, to me, I've just always felt like you live life at your own risk. If you want to attend the game, if you're comfortable attending the game, then you attend. If you don't, then you don't have to. And if you're a season ticket holder, like the Eagles gave the option to any season ticket holder who wanted to opt out because they didn't feel safe, they could opt out. They could either get a refund or they could have their money go to get credited towards the next season. And in opting out, you don't lose your right to your future season tickets.
Yeah.
And I think that's the right way to do it. And I'm sure other NFL teams have done it. I just haven't heard of it. But I personally don't think we're going to have fans at games. I think we probably could. But I think some of this is also very political. I think that
I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm not sitting here going, "Oh, the government is just trying to make." I think
all the time. There's a conspiracy. I do think that COVID's real and it's a problem, but I think that part of the reaction to it is political.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, and, I think we're gonna have to do it one of ways. Either we can all bunker down until there's a vaccine, or we can live a halfway life until there's a vaccine. And I choose to live the halfway life. The gloves, the mask, whatever. As long as we have gloves and masks, I just can't see a lot of people getting it if we're all wearing gloves and masks. I know masks is like the normal now, but I'm like, why haven't we added gloves just to take that extra layer of what you touch? The reason you have to wash your hands all the time is because of what you might be touching or touching your own face. But if you have gloves on, the majority of the time, it takes that part out of the equation. And we're all, to me,
as long as you're not touching your face with the gloves, and then just
another 50%
off the gloves, wash your hands. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't get it. Like if it's all about washing your hands, well, then we should be wearing stuff to protect the hands to begin with, And I say that would, to me, I think if I saw everybody with gloves and masks, I'd be like, look, we're all good. Let's all get back out there now.
Right, and I just think, I don't know. I do think that there's paranoia has been spread about this. And I'm not saying that the fear isn't realistic, but I think, as long as you take proper precautions, you can be okay. Hey, look, at work sometimes, even with my mask on, I get a dust particle comes in somewhere, and like I have to sneeze, and you'd swear the looks I get when I have to sneeze. It's like, and I always do the into the elbow and turn away from everybody, and it's like, dude, sometimes I gotta sneeze. Like, relax. I don't have COVID because I sneezed.
Yeah. And what do you think? Do you think at the end of the day, we'll just go with Philadelphia because they seem to be more. I feel like Philly seems to be voicing a lot, like what they're thinking about, what they're doing. Because they were talking about maybe not having players. Like, do you think Philly's going to have people in the stands? Think the Eagles are going to allow people to come in, or you think it's going to be a no-go?
Not at first. I think by the end of the year we might have like a limited capacity.
Isn't that crazy? Like, it could be that no one's in the stands, and around playoff time would be when there's a vaccine. Maybe then they let people in. But what if this comes down to you have to have proof you've taken the vaccine? You got to carry your papers. It would feel like we're in a freaking movie where you have to prove you're not diseased. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Even when I'm walking around, I see people with masks. I'm like, I can't believe I live in a world that's like Mad Max now, man.
I know.
It is. It's surreal. It's surreal. Well, close us out. Let's close out on the subject you want to talk.
Well, yeah, I certainly enjoyed this a little bit. We talked about the bucket list items. I wanted to do something like with a little uplifting idea to it as opposed to just the constant drug of this. Are we going to have a season? Are we not? I do think, I will say it now, I've been saying it since the beginning, we will have a season. I don't know if there'll be fans there. I think, though, that what the NFL needs to do, they have to come up with something. We're going to need a statement from Roger Goodell. Like, I don't think it should be the case where if, some stadiums can have fans, some can't. Like, to me, that gives too much of an advantage to those teams that can have fans there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's got to be one way or the other. And then you can reassess it like week by week and say, okay, well, what cases, because right now, like it's still pretty bad. And so I think I think they should just make a statement right now. There will be no fans in the NFL in September at games. I just think that should be the statement right now. And that we'll reevaluate in a couple of weeks whether or not maybe we can have fans in October. I just think that's the easiest way to go about it. And
what do you think? Do you think people are, like when they watch this show, do you think people are tired of hearing about COVID, that they come to shows like this and they don't want COVID to be a part of the conversation anymore? I mean, it's kind of hard not to because a lot of the news around sports is about COVID.
Yeah, I'd love for us to not have to discuss it at all. I'm sick of COVID.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to celebrate the day we're done.
Oh, my God. Like the day that they say you no longer have to wear masks in public, we have a vaccine, treat it just like the flu. I am going to do backflips.
Oh, yeah. The day I walk up to the stadium and they say you don't have to bend over, spread your cheeks, and pull your sack up, I'm like, oh, I mean, hold on. I don't have to show your papers for COVID? I'm like, all right, cool. But
I don't know what kind of stuff they pull at Texas Stadium, but we don't do that in Philadelphia.
Yeah, we got cartels trying to bring stuff in the stadium. You never know, dude, down here.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, well, everybody, I appreciate everybody joining. I know, like, talking about all this COVID stuff sucks. Like, I hate it. I hate that we have to sit here and discuss whether or not fans are going to. We should be past this. And I really think that, like, it's, and I don't know if it's all our leadership. And again, this is why I said I think some of this is political, that, we got kind of like down. Like this whole, like, they finally brought up the whole you have to wear a mask, what, in April or May? Like
May was like the big push.
May.
Yeah.
Like, how was this not just the case the second we had a case? Like they didn't just say, wait, no, wear masks. We got to do social distance.
Well, there was I think it's because there was very confusing information in the beginning. Some people were saying masks keep you from spreading it, but it does nothing from you getting it. So people got confused. They didn't think it was a necessity. And then eventually they said, hey, we're all wearing masks.
Protecting their neighbors.
Yeah. So I think not wearing a mask in the beginning was comfortable. And then it looked very selfish. In fact, I went somewhere and forgot my mask. And someone right away said to me, no wonder it's spreading. Like to me, because I forgot mine. I mean, there are people who are angry about it.
Well, let me tell you, some people that I work with, like if somebody walks into our building without a mask, it's like They get the look of death. Like,
and I personally just say, hey, some people forget. Some people wear it below their nose. Just remind them. You ain't gotta be rude to them. Some people have had it on all day and they may have just pulled it down below their nose and forgot. Like, tell them just to pull it up. You know, there are things like that. I'm one of those. Like, I'm always pulling it below my nose when I'm not in the store or somewhere and I'm in my car. Shit, I even leave the mask on when I'm driving. I just pull it below my nose. And then I just pull it back up
because it's easier. You don't have to remember then to go.
Yeah,
and grab
exactly. I don't forget it. And during my day, I'm walking in and out of grocery stores, and I go into Home Depot, and I'm in Home Depot, sneezing on workers and stuff on purpose.
Yeah,
so I'm kind of
make sure you're spreading it to these guys. And yeah,
yeah. Nah. Look, Eric is affiliated with Home Depot, so I have to throw Home Depot jokes in there. But Home Depot. I find their store actually better than most. They don't seem to be all crazy. Well, at least not the one I go to. They're not all like super aggressive on people. And I see the guy out there with the HDX sprayer spraying down the carts every time a set of carts are brought in. I think that's a really good strategy. I really do think though, and I can't help. I mean, I do it anyways, but I don't know why people still wear gloves. Like, find you a good pair of comfortable, breathable gloves and just wear them. I have mechanic gloves. They're like neon green. They're made for holding on to stuff. And they're thin, and I wear those.
Well, they're made available to us at the beginning of our shift.
Yeah.
And
I get it. A lot of people are like, oh, it's not comfortable. I'm like, well, if you buy the kind that I use, like the mechanical ones, they fit like a glove, like nice and snug. So you can still do stuff on your phone. Like, it's not like some big cloth things in the way. And I get it. You do get sweaty in them because they're tight. They're latex or nylon or whatever. So, I mean, I get that. But look, I mean, just take them back off when you get in the car. I just think it's like, if we're going to do it, I don't like a half-ass approach, just the mask. I'm like, if we're going to do it, let's do it all the way then. Right. Otherwise, let's just scrap it all.
Exactly. And that was kind of my approach. Like, I called the shutdown a half-ass shutdown. And I thought that was part of the problem too. But
dude, it's true. Yeah. Like this whole, like, just let people go to the stadium, make us all feel better, lie to us, say you have some giant cartridge put in the AC that, freaking when the air goes through there, it takes COVID out of the air. Like, lie to us, deal with the lawsuit after the season. Just tell us that now so we can get to the freaking stadium.
After you made your billions from us,
I will take on COVID in my lungs and everything to get to a couple of football games. And then after I go to the ER and all that stuff, season will be over. It won't matter.
Exactly. See, it's all figured out. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Really had a good time tonight. Even a great message from our loyal fan, Steve Barr. Appreciate it. Checking in with us. Your loyalty is the reason why we're going to do our day job.
You damn wisecracker, Steve.
But I hope everybody enjoyed it. Make sure to check out all the other Phillyverse shows. We always start off the week, Monday nights, 7:30. The flagship show, the one that started it all, Football Smack Talk show. Myself and Ryan at 7:30, two Philly guys talking birds. And then Tuesday night, the Philly Broadcast with Ryan and Ryan. They talk all things Philly sports. And then Wednesdays, we get more diversified. We don't just stick on Philly here because we got a guy from Texas, Dallas fan and Eagles fan, duking it out. We have
got
a good
the colors. Got the colors. Now I'm in my office, which isn't sports decorated because I run a channel, Coach Landry, for helping people navigate their issues and relationships in life and whatnot. So my office is not set up for sports, but like anybody in Texas, I grew up playing sports all my life. So sports is a forte here. If you don't know sports, you're not a Texan pretty much.
Yeah. Well, when I went to Texas, one of the first things they said to me as I'm driving across the border, you play football? Well, I mean, not since I was in high school. Here's a football. Take it.
Hey, are you going to the grocery store? Here's a football. Are you going to church? You need a football in your hand, son. Yeah. And I come from a school where my coach, and I've said this to you, was the winningest coach or is the winningest coach in Texas football history in high school. And that's a big deal in the state of Texas. High school football is extremely competitive. And for those who don't know it, that the three states with the most recruits for college are California, Texas, and Florida for college football. And 80% of those come from my area outside of Houston, makes up 80% of the pulled recruits.
Wow.
In all of the United States. And it's because we got a lot of fast people here. Texas seems to breed people who can run. So
yeah, they got to run from the border.
Yeah, you got to look it up. It's called Harris County. It's a very big county It encompasses over 3 million people. So, I mean, it's a pretty big pool to pick from. And that number's climbing, obviously, because we keep growing, because people from New York, California apparently don't like paying taxes. So they keep flooding our state. I was reading a thing on the article the other day, and it said we have more people from California and New York in the last 5 years than from anywhere.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that stat as well.
Belling on those taxes.
So Wednesday nights, we have Mike Sports. Thursday nights, 9 o'clock. Be sure to check out Tables, Ladders, and Chairs podcast. Myself and Joe breaking down all things wrestling.
And that's one of my favorite names, by the way. Like, I think that Tables, Ladders, and Chairs is such a catchy name. Like, if I didn't know about wrestling, I would probably know that has to do some of the – y'all must be doing backyard wrestling or something. That's what it makes me think of. Yeah. I think y'all just breaking freaking church tables off a trailer park.
Because that term is actually trademarked by WWE. We're waiting for the day that we big time and WWE knocks on our door and says, hey, you got to change the name of your podcast or start paying us.
Exactly.
But right now, I don't think they care too much about us and our dozens and dozens of followers. But everybody, we appreciate all of you. And tune in tomorrow night for Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. And until next time, happy football, everybody.